Hi, my name is Brian with the International Fellowship of Chaplains. I am sitting here with senior pastors Larry and Kathy Bird to talk about chaplaincy and a church. So guys, what originally as senior pastors of your church drew you to chaplaincy?
Well, Brian, thank you for letting us be here. That's a really good question because in all honesty, when I was first approached about pursuing chaplain training, my initial thought was why? Why do I need chaplain training? Why would I want to? I was a pastor, a senior pastor, planning a church and building a church, and was very engaged and busy, really, with building our church. And when these friends of ours approached us regarding taking chaplain training, I initially just dismissed it and said, no, I don't really need that. But then thinking more about it, I began to see their lives and how chaplaincy was really benefiting them in their ministry. And so I relinquished and said, I think I will. That was about 10 years ago, I think, when we made that decision. And so I did. I went through the chaplain school, and to be very honest with you, coming out of the chaplain training, I then asked myself, why didn't I take this sooner than I did? Because there were so many practical things in the training that if I had known when I began what I learned through the training, I really believe I'd have been a better pastor. There was something about chaplaincy that really addressed real problems, real issues, and yet the training of intervention, how you step in, how you engage, how you interact, and then how you can get someone in need to a place where they can get that need met, was very compelling to me as far as the training goes. As pastors, we're trying to fix everybody. We want everybody to be happy, well, whole, sound, and as a pastor, we feel like that we as shepherds are responsible for making that happen. Chaplaincy taught me that it's not my responsibility to fix everyone. It's my duty and my joy to love everyone and to hear what they are saying, see what they are going through, and then try to get them to the very best possible place to get the help that they need to get their lives back on track. I realize I don't fix anybody. God fixes all of us, as it were, but my job is to see it, intervene with it, try to be a blessing, love, and then get those individuals the help that they need that, quite frankly, me as a pastor am not really equipped to do.
Over the last 9 or 10 years, you guys have had the opportunity to host several chaplain classes within your church, and so I know a lot of your congregation are actually chaplains. What benefits have you guys noticed for you guys as pastors, for the chaplains, and for your church and the other folks who attend there, since you guys have such a large number of chaplains in your congregation?
Well, that's a great question, Brian. I will tell you that I was amazed after we trained the first class. About 35 students in the first class, over half of them went to our church. And immediately we noticed a change in how they interacted with the people, problems that would come up, such as someone losing someone or going into the hospital for an operation or something. The next thing we knew, our chaplains were stepping up and taking care of it, reporting back to us and saying, Pastor, we've got it covered. We've met with the family. We've talked to those that are sick. We've been to the funeral home. All types of different things began to happen. And then we began to notice that when people were traumatized or going through a crisis, our chaplains were very quick to spot that in the body. And so they would constantly be coming to us and letting us know that they had spoken with a certain family. They were going through a hard time. This is what's going on. I just want to let you know that we were that listening ear, that ministry of presence. So I would just say this: when we were first approached about being chaplains and having chaplains out of our church, as a pastor, you're never really sure. What does that mean? Does that mean that I'm going to train a bunch of people? Now all of a sudden they're going to leave my church and go out into the community and I'll never see them again? Well, we found it to be just the opposite. What actually happened was it made our church stronger. In fact, they started recruiting people to go through the next chaplain class, and it probably cut our pastoral care down from about 75% to 25% because we had someone now to share the load. And I was just checking the latest statistics for 2021. Over 1,500 pastors are leaving the ministry each month. Most of that is due to family issues, burnout, or just problems, having to listen to problems over and over, and they just do not have the bandwidth to sit day after day and take care of all the needs of the body. And so I just want to say that as senior pastors of a work, it is the best thing that any church could ever do is to have a chaplain class, train up chaplains so that they could be activated to both be active in your body as well as being active in the community. So we have loved having chaplains in our church.
You know, Brian, I just also wanted to add that, being a pastor in the local community, there is oftentimes a stigma connected with the role of pastor. And, just to be honest, it is so that most people, when they hear you are a pastor, immediately in their mind there's that picture of, okay, here's a guy that wants to tell me about Jesus. He wants to get me in his church, and he wants me to support him financially. So they're after me in their house, and they're after my money and that sort of thing. That stigma is not there with chaplaincy. And I have found that even as a pastor, when I am ministering in the community as a chaplain, that stigma is gone. And I am much more accepted in the community as a minister in the chaplain role than I ever was in the pastor role. And that was very liberating to me, and also sent the message, I'm not after you getting into my church, and I'm not after your money. I'm here because I really love you and want to help you any way that I can. And so that was another benefit that I learned after I had joined the IFLC and just began then to minister in the community as a chaplain. I began to see the walls that normally would be there no longer be there. And the borders and boundaries of chaplaincy were much more enlarged than those of the local pastor. So huge benefit, a huge blessing. And the same was so with those chaplains in our church family, that they began to move from the mindset of ministry just within the building, within the house itself, and begin to move out, as Kathy was sharing, into the community and finding their places of ministry and purpose and significance as ministers in the chaplain role. And again, being that blessing to so many people. Some of those that they minister to will come to our church, many didn't, but that was really not the point. The point is we're touching humanity and we're reaching out to hurting people and making a difference.
And one last thing that I would like to say is I think the greatest joy for me watching the chaplains in our church were watching people that had sat in pews their whole life, never knew what they were called to, never felt like they were a part or significant. They would do anything you asked them to do in the church, but you could see that the passion was not there. You could see that which they were created for was locked up. And so what we saw with chaplaincy is it unlocked our people. It unlocked the DNA that had been placed on the inside of them. It increased passion, and we saw that our people were much healthier and they were much happier.
That's awesome. We often say that chaplaincy is not what you do, it becomes part of who you are. And so we usually think of chaplain ministry as being a ministry outside of the church, strictly to the community, but it's so nice to hear how that aspect and that perspective in your people can actually positively influence the community within your churches and within the body itself inside your church. So thank you so much for sharing that perspective.
Well, that training makes those chaplains within the church family much more confident in their ministry and in their mission. The training helped to build that confidence, and then the opportunity within the body itself to engage in just ministering to the needs of others as a chaplain within the church family was huge, a huge step for them and a huge blessing for our body. So it's a win-win for everyone. It really is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time today. We
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Brian.
Our joy. Thank you.